back to another episode of the Real Podcast of Dallas. No additives, no preservatives, all natural with a little bit of spice. Our spice isn't here today, but she'll be with us soon again. But we have
Miss Maria.
We have Miss Maria. We have Miss Maria with us. I'm having a little bit of problems with the mics.
I wonder where that's coming from. Does mine sound okay? I
Yeah,
think mine
yours
sounds
is-
okay.
Yeah, okay. There we go.
I like mine. I like mine.
You like what comes out of there. Yes, and what do you think of this version, Miss Maria?
I like that version.
Kind of like a little remix.
Yes. With a little bit more rhythm.
A little bit more, yeah. A little more up to date.
Upbeat.
Yeah, and it's only because I had to use a different computer, so I hope the music's going to be a little bit off.
Okay.
Hopefully not.
Not
Hopefully
too off.
Yeah. So, how can they find the little podcast that did?
You can find the Real Podcast of Dallas just by Googling the Real Podcast of Dallas, and automatically you will get access to our podcast through YouTube. So once you do the search, the Real Podcast of Dallas,
Yes.
you'll have access to all the different podcasts that we have done through
Right.
YouTube, which is one way that you can find us. And then also if you can also find us through Facebook, just search the Real Podcast of Dallas and it will take you to our page. If you do that, please remember to follow and remember to like
Right.
the page. That page has all of our podcasts pre-recorded on there, so all you have to do is click on the podcast and it will direct you.
Right.
So you will have full access to the entire episode.
Yes, and we have 34. This will be our 35th.
Yes.
Yes, this will be our 35th podcast. For the little podcast that they said wouldn't make it.
But here we are.
Yes, so
Still
we
going.
hope that you enjoy another episode. So we're going to, we were talking earlier, and one of the things that we decided to talk about was teenagers. We work with teenagers, so one of the things that I think is missing, Maria, is that as mental health care workers, and this is a lot of people, because and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm generalized. Maybe I shouldn't do that. But I think we forget about puberty.
I think you're right. I think we do go from treating our kid from a child and then turning them into adults really quick.
Right.
And we don't give them that opportunity to experience what the teenage stage is or
Right.
truly is. Because the teenage stage requires a lot of patience
Yes.
from the parents.
Because you raised one, and you're raising another one.
And I'm currently on my number 2.
Yes.
And things do differ from girl to boy because, you know, my
Definitely.
oldest is a girl.
Right.
And right now with my boy, it hasn't been a struggle, but it's taken me a little bit longer to understand, you know, because, you know, I don't understand everything that, you know, he's going through as a male person, but we do forget. We do. We tend to say things like, you know, cuando estabas chiquito, when you were little, you're not little anymore. You know, you've got to become more responsible. Going into middle school prepares them into high school. And so I think we're constantly reminding them that, you know, you've got to be more responsible. You've got to be more responsible. But really, the teenage stage is where they're barely growing out of that little child.
Right. Yeah, and we've done several. We did one called Growing Pains. We talked a little bit about that, being too old, being too young. And I thought working with the kids that we've been talking to, you know, a lot of the stuff that they're going through, if I use my knowledge of mental health as an adult to adults, I could tell you, oh, you're in a lot of trouble. You're this anxiety and this stress. But then I start remembering working with teens is that, you know, teens do go through some anxieties and stress that are normal.
Yes, very normal.
Even us adults, we go through some normal stress and anxieties, but we're in a society now that wants to medicate, and I'm not against medication. Let me take that back. That wants to diagnose. We're at a time where we want to diagnose everything, and everything has to have a diagnosis. So I think we need to be real careful with that, especially when we're talking to our children. And I know it's nice, that we're aware of mental health issues, but not everybody has a mental health issue, especially when you're teens.
Yes.
Because some of the stuff they're talking to us about is normal. It may not seem normal. It may not feel right. But a lot of it is normal. A lot of it is something that's not that bad.
Exactly.
You notice how we tell them, well, it's not that bad. It's normal. And they kind of like, huh? So let's talk a little bit about the teenagehood.
Teenagehood.
Yes. So teenagers are, we're talking about 12 and up.
Well, 12 and up, because you have the preteen. You have the preteen that sometimes starts as early as 11 or 12, and then you go into the teen, which is 13.
Right. Yeah, we have that. So it's difficult because kids mature, but they mature, but they're still in their ages.
They're still, at 11, when we talk about the preteen, which is usually the 11 or 12, they're still children. They're still, they're still not a teenager.
Right, exactly.
And we have different expectations from a child to a teenager. And then the thing is that unfortunately some of these kids are growing up too fast.
Exactly.
They're not allowing themselves to experience and enjoy the preteen into teen stage of life.
Yes. And a lot of them are uncomfortable. So if you're a teenager listening, listen carefully. Gotta listen carefully. This is a show for you guys, because we told them that we're gonna work on this podcast so y'all can listen to it. Parents, we want you to listen also, because if you're experiencing teenitis because of your teen, this will explain. So growing up as a teenager myself, and Miss Maria also, we went through some growing pains, and we have that podcast we talked about the growing pains. Too young for this, too old for this. One of the things that we didn't touch on a lot was the puberty and biology. And, sometimes we forget about that, and there's some natural things that we're going to go through, like not feeling comfortable in your own skin.
Yes.
Some of the stuff the kids were talking about today, as in, I don't want to be around people. I don't want to be around. I don't like anybody right now, and it may sound like there's a risky thing going on, but it's really just teenageism. Now, I did follow it up with, well, if something's been going on that you're not telling somebody, definitely there's a trauma, or someone's been mean to you, or someone's hurting you. You definitely want to report that. But a lot of times it's just teens. It's just I don't feel good with myself. I'm changing. I'm getting taller. My feet are growing. My emotions are all over the place. It's a thing called puberty.
Clothes don't fit right anymore.
Clothes don't fit right. You may have gained a little bit more weight or lost a little bit of weight.
And that's a process. It's a process to understand. I think it's a process to understand your height.
Right.
It's a process to understand, the weight gain. And a lot of it is normal. It comes with the puberty stage.
Yes.
That's normal, kids. Don't think that you're different or you're weird, because you're not. It's just you growing and, growing into your own skin.
Yes.
Becoming that person that you're about to become, that young adult.
I think we forget it as adults. I think as adults, when we start not sharing this with our teens, and we allow them to mature, even in the clothes that they wear, in certain behaviors, when we allow that, because we think, well, this is going to be better for them, they may not be ready. And it's our job as adults just to kind of guide them and tell them, well, some of the stuff that you're thinking of is kind of normal. For your teenage self.
Yes, and I think it is okay to say, this clothes is not right for you just yet.
Right. Yes.
And I think, not only do girls need to hear that, but boys need to hear that too. They need to know that. It's a process, and if it's during their teenage years, that's when they're beginning to find out who they truly are. They need to they need to have that time to experience what it is that they truly like. You know, who are they becoming? What fits right for them?
Right. And if you're wondering, well, what does that have to do with anything? That's where peer pressure comes in. That's where a negative body image comes in, or self-image comes in, because if we're allowing our kids to mature in a way where they're not ready to mature, if you're giving them responsibilities that maybe they're not ready for, they're going to feel inadequate. They're going to feel as if that they don't fit in, and they're going to feel like failures. And that may be new for some of y'all to hear. Some of y'all may be saying, "Oh, you're wrong, absolutely wrong." Been doing this for a while, and Miss Maria's been doing this for a while, and we have these conversations. A lot of our conversations that we've had is about how we don't really talk about these things with kids. We kind of just want to meet them where they're at, but as adults, with our adult mentality.
Yes.
Oh, well, I've been through that too. Oh, I'm going through that now. And it's like, no, it's different.
Yes, it's different. And it's different for each individual. You know, what we went through as teenagers, like what I went through as a teenager, is definitely not anything that, you know, my daughter experienced, because
Right.
we are our own individuals. Feelings are different, emotions are different, even thoughts are different.
Yes. Yes. I'm going to be real careful, but not really. So guide me here, Ms. Maria. Let me make sure I don't get out of... Okay, so, you know, we're in a time now, and I can't be... I'm not going to act like it's not happening, but, you know, there's a lot of inappropriate stuff that's... and you know this because you have a young son, and I've raised 4 daughters, and I have a son, also a young son. And there's a lot of inappropriate things. Some people believe that their body shows that it's okay. And that's if you want to do that, that's fine. I understand. But also remember that there's young children around you. And what they see and what they hear is processed different than what adults process. Some things are not made for young ears. Some things their young minds are not ready to experience. Unfortunately, some parents partner up with their children, and I'm not criticizing, I'm not judging. If you want to know, if you really want to help raise a healthy child mindset, you've got to have boundaries. And that's why they have certain, back in the day it was rated PG, rated G. That's a boundary, by the way. That's saying, hey, we're not ready for that yet, little mind. So this is what you're going to watch versus what I watch, right?
That is totally correct. And I think, unfortunately, you know, kids have access to so much without, you know, the parents being over them, whether it's on TikTok, whether it's through YouTube, you know, and it's not because parents are being, you know, neglectful or not paying attention, you know, it's just that, unfortunately, that's what... that is the world that we live in today.
Right.
And, you know, I've experienced, like, going through the TikTok, a lot of times I'm like, oh my goodness, like, this is not okay for little girls to be listening to. And I say little girls because I'm surrounded by my little nieces, so a lot of times I'm having to, like, guide them and, you know, give them some good advice and stuff. And, you know, some of the songs that they are familiar with, I'm like, wait a minute, no, that is not something that princesses should be singing to.
Well, and there was the music awards recently, and they had Cardi B, Miss Cardi B. I don't know what happened when you were growing up, and I can only imagine they should have been protected. You should have been taken care of. You should have been